Okay, so let's pretend like this isn't our third take on doing an intro for our podcast. This is our currently unnamed podcast. We're here to talk about webcomics because we're a bunch of artists with hands on the internet. I am Lun, and can we please introduce our main man himself, Rad?
Hello, I'm Rad, and I do have hands, and I use them sometimes to work on a webcomic. The webcomic is called Andrava, and it's a slice of life story set in Madagascar. That's it. I make a webcomic.
You make a webcomic.
Next!
Okay, how about you, Dom? Dom!
He's gone.
He's gone. Okay, so let's go move on to our alpha Chad. Shiza.
Hi, I'm Shizamura. I also have hands. I am on the internet, and I make a webcomic. It's called Usarilho, and it's about future Romans getting in trouble in the woods.
It's got really good art. And then our other host is currently having diarrhea on the Wi-Fi and these things.
May God have his soul.
Hello?
And
there we go.
There he is. Dom, would you please introduce yourself to our 4 listeners?
Hello, my name is Dom. I have 3 pairs of arms, and I lost 2 of them, and I only have 2 arms.
Damn. Are we gonna get replacements for them or no?
No.
What you do with those arms?
No, I ate them. But yes, I used to make comics, but now I'm currently working at an animation studio.
Quarantine doing a number on you, eating your hands.
Yeah, we ran out of groceries, and
oh boy,
fingernails have good protein.
Is this the Corona podcast?
Yeah, this is the Corona podcast. We're here to talk about things you could do while you're currently at home, avoiding the virus and being afraid of Asian people.
Have you guys seen CoronaCon?
Okay.
No, but this is not a coronavirus podcast. This is actually a webcomic podcast.
About comics you can read while you're in isolation.
Yeah, as the world burns upon you.
So seeing as this is like the beginning of our podcast, I think it'd be interesting to like think of how some of us over here got started doing webcomics.
Wait. You didn't introduce yourself.
Introduce myself? I'm nobody in particular. Yeah. I'm just a little... You caught me. My name is Lun. I am a college student currently. I currently have a webcomic called Orange Juice about a superhero mafia. But it's... as all webcomics end up becoming, it's on hiatus. And it's on hiatus because I am doing a thing which inspired 2 of our artists today to move into webcomics. Could you tell me what they are? Oh, Rad. You have history with it.
My Little Pony fan arts. That's it, right?
Yeah. Actually, I met this German dude who I used to follow in DeviantArt. He still follows me. Shout out to Darian. But yeah, he literally just like drew a fan art. Like, why are people liking this? Like, it's fun, dude. And I just started watching it, and I just like, you know what? I'm gonna draw My Little Pony fan art. And then suddenly, now I get fan art from my fan art by Rad.
And then OCTs.
And then we went.
That's the actual answer.
We were like,
my bad.
Then we just shoved in there. Nice segue.
I know, right? What's an OCT?
Yeah, what is it?
It's shortened for October.
No, but what is an OCT?
What?
It's an OC. It's short for Original Character Tournament, obviously.
Oh.
What do you mean by all?
So you do know what it is?
I know.
Don't pretend that you don't know, Rad. We've been through OCTs together.
Oh, I'm talking about Shizamura.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know. I wasn't. I know what they are, but I didn't know with the.
What the acronym is.
The acronym, I see.
Yeah.
I was honestly thought that Rad was like, you didn't know after all these years of joining OCTs, like that's what it means.
I just call them webcomics, because they're comics on the internet. Before we go into OCTs, the very first question here is, what is a webcomic?
I, for one, think that webcomics are just very simple. They're comics that your boomer parents share on Facebook, sharing very problematic messages. You know, if you have a problem, you gotta blame it on someone and then draw a comic about it and then post it on Facebook.
Hey everyone, this is the first episode of the podcast.
Is Boomer a slut?
No, yeah, but for me, I think webcomics is basically like, you know, if you're gonna make a comic that's slowly at the purpose of being posted on the internet more than it is being published, and that's considered a webcomic, technically speaking.
Yeah, I very much agree. I think, like, as long if it's the primary medium from the comic is the web, I think it's a webcomic. Even if
Yeah.
it's
If it's the very purpose
printed
of being
afterwards.
posted, yeah.
It's a very simple definition. I mean, because it's a very simple concept. It's a comic on the internet.
Yeah, you can sell your comic on Gumroad for all I care. If it's that the primary medium it's going to be shared from, I think
it's a
I think
webcomic.
it counts as webcomic. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you drew it on tissue paper, if you drew it with your $2,000 Cintiq tablet. If you're gonna post it on Webtoons for everyone to read, it's gonna be a webcomic. You little.
Okay.
It's just slur.
You're trying to gather an audience and calling the audience is kind of...
You know, and there are a lot of people who are into being called, being demeaned. You ever hear of this thing called torture? Okay, never mind.
No!
So comics on the
That sounds
internet.
really bad.
So this leads into this
Anyway.
thing that Rad and Dom.
Does it? Does it lead into this thing?
Yeah,
Oh,
it
wait,
does
I have
lead
things
into
to
it.
say too.
Okay.
It does lead into it because OCTs, as you mentioned earlier, are original character tournaments wherein it's a very weird thing on the internet because you have a bunch of artists who get together and then they just say, hey, you want to make a 30-page comic in 2 to 4 weeks with no pay and no rewards at all? Yeah, sure, let's go do that and spend like 6 months up to a full year for nothing but
Never
internet
sleeping.
street cred. It's like
That's a very cynical way to look at it.
it's a very
No, it's the internet street cred.
I mean, it's true though. So
No, what it is essentially also going at other people and saying, "I bet my OC can beat yours."
it's not saying that you bet that you can beat them. It's saying
I
my
will beat your
character
OC
will
from my
beat
comic.
your character, and I'm going to draw it, and you're gonna watch them get stepped on and get demeaned. It's a common thing in our internet age these days.
My dad can beat up your dad, except it's OC.
My dad can't beat
Yeah.
your dad.
It is true.
So can you, the two of
Sorry,
you,
sorry.
explain? Because you two have been in the OCT scene for a while. Could you like give a little bit of background of like what to expect or what to do or how you got into it in the first place?
For one thing, I started off first I actually discovered OCTs basically from Endling. If you know that guy from DeviantArt. I said, wow, that is cool. You're making your own character, making your own comic without, editors and stuff. That was like when I was like early college. And it kind of inspired me, but before that I started making My Little Pony fan art, obviously. And after that, funny thing is, it really practiced helping me create color schemes in the most ridiculous ways. And that's how I started seeing OCTs again once more. And it's like, you know what? I'm going to try this just for the lulz. And
it's
that's
a
how I
natural
joined
progression.
Walking City OCT.
It's a natural progression. Let me draw my pony characters, and then you move to the next logical progression of I'm gonna draw two people beating the out of one another.
Yeah.
No. It's not how you make it. First, he drew the ponies beating each other up. He had a steampunk.
Oh.
Hey,
No, let's not talk about that one. This is a webcomic. Technically, it is a webcomic. But
That
no,
was real? I thought you were joking.
I actually have a Pony RP blog. This is the first episode. I'm trying to get out. I'm outing my own personal secret right now. I used to have a Pony RP
I was
blog.
not informed that there will be bronies in this podcast.
Former brony.
Oh, please,
not a
please,
bro.
don't
Not a
live,
brony.
don't live.
I am not a brony.
Recovering
We're all
brony.
Chad.
Recovering brony. I'm on Shiza's
Okay.
side. You know, she has
Sorry?
the continuing webcomic, and she's the one who's judging the bronies. So you know what? I think she may be onto something.
Oh no.
So what about you, Rad? What's your experience with OCTs?
Well, like we said earlier, me and my brony friend Dom were pretty tight.
We're not bronies anymore, dude. We grew up out of it. Please stop.
You can still be bronies right now.
I'd rather not. I'd rather not. I'd rather not.
The shame runs.
Anyway,
let's not walk into this.
Also joined an OCT called Walk-in City with Dominic because I saw him preparing for it, and I just thought, okay, I'll do it too. Like if Tom's doing it, I want to try it.
Yeah, you started doing spectator entries, right?
And then
You didn't get
and I just keep doing my thing on the side. But honestly, the OCTs were very essential in my...
Gross.
Well, it was my origin as a comic artist. But when I prepared for the Walk-in City, that was also a turning point for me as a creator. Because I asked myself, okay, how can I make something... What can I bring to the table that's, like, unique? And that's the first time I created my Malagasy character, like, when I figured, oh, I'm from Madagascar, and guess I can make something based on Madagascar. And that I started then, and I just never stopped after that.
You just kept going. So, there's a lot of differences between, like, the formats between, like, OCTs and webcomics, because, like, mainly the first one is, for an OCT, it's a tournament. You're going to have to face other artists and their characters, and then you're going to have to incorporate their stories into your stories, or working with a lot of material that you're not used to because they're not your intellectual property. And to add on to that, you also have a deadline of around 2 weeks to 6 weeks.
Fun thing about OCTs, it actually basically prepares you for crunch time, and from a professional world, it actually prepares you in some sort of way for an OCT. It actually helped me, especially when I started out with animation, surprisingly, how tight schedules would be, and I have to do as much as I can using my limited amount of creative energy in a limited amount of time. It helped me manage those, surprisingly. Yeah. So, yeah, somehow OCTs actually benefited me a little bit, even though it's painful.
It's very masochistic.
I'll be honest. It's masochistic. There's no value in it in a sense, because the only value here is you creating for yourself.
What about
it's
you?
For yourself.
You're an outsider to this whole OCT culture. You have anything you want to ask? You're the audience surrogate right now.
Oh yeah. I mean, I never participated in any. But I remember some artists I followed on DeviantArt back in the day participating, and I was like, this sounds very cool, and at the same time, a lot of work. And I also...
It is a lot of work, yeah.
Back then, I didn't have the internet access to be continuously engaged in something like that, so I never found a way to participate.
I mean, it's never too late.
I guess.
But you don't have to subject yourself.
I'm confused about how the dynamics on these things works, because they were like tournaments. So how do you decide on who's going to win and who's going to...
There's like a set of judges in the OCT.
There's a bunch of respected members of the community who will host these tournaments. They're going to make these tournaments, and making these tournaments takes a lot of time. It's like 2 years of prep work to get something running, because there's a lot of artwork that you have to prepare and just organize it. And then, so after they submit the entries, the participants of the OCT, the judges are basically going to go talk. They're going to say, okay, who did this round better? Who treated each other's characters better? Who made the better story? So a lot of the times it's necessarily the more technically impressive entry won't always win if the execution is lacking in the story department, or if they disrespected the characters of their opponents.
Yeah. Oh, it's also surprisingly, there's actually consent in this OCT regarding someone else's characters, because it's their intellectual property. If you mishandle that, it's basically personally insulting to them. So if you guys are going to join an OCT, always remember to ask consent on whatever horrible plans you have for someone else's character.
It's a thing you can take into real life. When I take my kindergartner to school, I don't want the teacher to bash him in the head with a ruler.
You're like 19.
I'm 21, Dom. I'm legally allowed to drink now. And
Yeah, but you don't
according
have
to
any children.
Congratulations.
All these things he was already doing, he can now do them legally.
That's true. Yeah.
when
that
I
is true.
was shoplifting, now I can do it legally speaking.
I mean, you can, but you're
I
probably
mean-
going to face
I mean, shoplifting is
consequences.
technically both illegal in any term at all, so I don't know.
Oh, we don't have to talk about the technicals of that.
Yeah.
So, like, you're doing these with deadlines, very strict deadlines. So,
Yep.
a lot of the time,
Okay.
you're not able to output your work at a level that you yourself are completely satisfied with. Have
Yeah.
either
I mean,
of you two
that's-
artists, like, kind of submitted something that you just went, I hate that, hate that, hate that.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically, if you're going to join in any creative job, that's basically what's going to happen to you. Especially with like animation or any other illustration or graphic design or comics. You can't just have enough time to make the perfect thing that you're going to be satisfied with. And you have to, as much as possible, like use your limited time with as much creativity you got into that in that set amount of time
philosophical answer, though.
and move on.
Are we?
You don't
Friggin'
have a
move
lot
on.
of time, so just do
Are
your
we being
thing.
sponsored by an upcoming OCT? Because that's a lot of praise. Like, come on, someone should pay us now.
You people should join Last Resort OCT. It's coming out in March 17, hosted by a few good friends of mine. But never mind. I do think it's a very nice.
This isn't an OCT podcast, though. This is a
no, this is a
webcomic.
webcomic.
Wait.
I think it's a very nice thought though for us creatives to be comfortable with outputting something that isn't our 100%. Make mistakes quick.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I do want to add one thing before we move on to something else. Another great thing about OCTs is that you don't have to do a lot of setup work. The host, the organizer, will put out some info sheets with some illustrations about the setting, the battlegrounds, with some NPCs and stuff like that. And everyone also put out character sheets. So there's no need for introduction or fleshing out the character to just get in the fight.
I mean, you need some
And I think that's a very practical way
of doing it.
of practicing storytelling.
No world building, basically, not for you.
Yeah, because the hosts make the road building for you.
Yeah.
Although
It's not
I have
for you.
seen
Like, you have
some
to-
entries
Yeah, you have to just use whatever you have.
I
You
have
just,
seen
you
some
just get in the
entries
thick of it.
build the world for the OCT. They build it for the hosts. Because like at the end of the day, what you're making is your own a self-contained story. It's still gotta stand on its own two legs. You got the training wheels, but you still gotta make it enjoyable to outsiders, though.
Yep.
But it's like someone drew your prologue for you. And
I mean,
they
the
also
auditions
created
are
all the side
prologues.
characters for you.
Auditions are technically.
And you just
prologue.
roll with it. Just go crazy with your own character.
So what you're
Yeah.
saying is like it's like for anybody who's a bit apprehensive or they want to try something out for webcomics, like the OCT scene would be a nice way to enter it. Would you say so?
I guess that's what I'm saying. I think that's
It's one
a
of
nice
the
thing to say.
Yeah, it's one
I'm
of the
happy. I'm proud
way
of having
to actually
that.
be thrown into the fire directly and actually experience how it is.
So after the two of you like got a sense for your own OCT comic skills, you built up your skills through this environment. Is that like after that you just went, you know what? I'm done with the training wheels. I'm about to go into the big boy road and become a webcomic artist.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you doing a voice? That's exactly it. Actually, that's it. That's exactly what happened to
That's
me.
actually, yeah.
So you guys had
basically how it-
stepping stones or practice steps at least.
Yeah, and basically, like, sometimes you just bring the characters you are planning for the comics into the OCTs as well, sometimes. Sometimes it helps you realize, oh, that's how my character would actually act. And
Yeah, you can use it as a testing ground.
testing ground. Yeah, like a testing ground of sorts, how your characters are, how flawed they are, or how,
How they
merry
would
they
act.
are.
I mean, it worked well for the both of you because after the two of you ended your OCT careers, you started up webcomics, which like from page one got a lot of attention. So it served the two of you well.
Oh yeah. You also get a test audience. That's good. You can
You
have
can
a
do it.
small,
You can do it in
small
audience
readership.
because you're going
If
into
you're
a
lucky.
community. You're siphoning their juices.
I mean, yeah, I guess. But in the end, I have to admit, I didn't think this through
I mean, you did good with the little amount of a webcomic you released. You released 8 episodes, and like from the first day, you got a big audience. I mean, you haven't updated in years, but you still have new followers.
No, which is embarrassing, really.
What about you,
Oh,
Shiza?
no,
I mean,
no.
you're not in the OCT scene, so you didn't go through the same process we did. Would you say that you had a more traditional entry into the webcomic world?
Well, I when I was in high school, I used to doodle a lot of comics, and I was also practicing with digital art for the first time. So it made sense to pick the comics and put them into the digital part. And I published them on DeviantArt because that's where I was putting the rest of the art.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, they got up some attention from other people who told me, "Hey, do you know what webcomics are?" And I was like, "No, I'm just making comics on the web." And so I got a little introduction from other webcomic artists, and eventually I got my own website where I could publish these little comic strips. And I tried to make something of it, but it died quickly because I was in high school. So afterwards, I went to college, and I really didn't have
A lot of time.
the power to work on it and work on the college stuff at the same time.
Yeah.
So,
you say you
yeah,
can do
I-
that, but then now you have a job.
but I wasn't.
Yeah.
It's like back then it was different. It's like I was going through a lot of new things, and now I'm more steady in my life, so I get more time and I
comfortable
can make.
place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back then it was like everything was really new, so I was still making sense of what was going on. So yeah, that was my introduction to webcomics. I have a very old website that's partially broken where you can find my first webcomic. And it doesn't make sense, the pacing is horrible, and it has no plot. It's great.
Share the link.
Drop the link. Looking forward.
Yeah. Just share the link in this.
What's it called though?
It was called Doce, which means sweet.
Oh, I thought DOS is in denial of service.
No, not DOS. Oh no.
It's like a DDoS attack is gonna happen right now. You know, there are gonna be like 5 people trying to shut down this podcast. Just 5 people.
Yeah, I'm
though.
probably one of them.
I do have a quick question.
Yeah.
For Shiz, like, would you say having a title in Portuguese is important for you? Or
Oh,
is
yeah.
It is important for me, but apparently it scares a lot of people off.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, there's Malagasy too, right, Red?
Yeah, sure. I didn't even realize.
And Java.
Oh yeah. Well, I guess I do it for the cool factor.
Yeah, so what you're
But
saying,
Basically, virtually no Malagasy readers.
Rad, you're exploiting
like what-
your culture. Is that what you're saying, Rad?
Baby. No, seriously. When I pick the word, I just like, this word sounds cool, and I try to imagine how foreigners would pronounce it, and that was my thought process.
How do you mispronounce Handrava?
On Java,
Are we mispronouncing it right now?
It's
You
missing H,
mispronounce.
a silent H. Is it a silent H?
it is a silent H.
Andrava.
So Andrava. Okay.
See, it's happening right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So, why did
Oh,
it
but,
scare other readers though, Shiza?
It's like all my websites are Portuguese by default, and you have to pick the English. So a lot of people just don't notice. And that webcomics are actually they are translated. So that's why the logos for the translation buttons are now like really big, at least on the mobile version, because people were missing them out.
They're very tiny on the web version.
Yeah.
Do you have
Surprised me.
a lot of Portuguese readers, or maybe Brazilians?
Brazilians find the comic and they read it. It's fine. But the language is slightly different, and they have fun seeing the differences. Just
Oh,
like I
nice.
have fun
Oh,
reading
great.
Brazilian text.
Oh, that's nice. That's cute.
See, be more cultured through webcomics. It's a very deep medium. If you were all to read our stuff, then maybe you too can indulge yourself into our thoughts and minds. You know, have a little fun.
Don't look at my webcomics. It's just so long.
I have looked.
No. Just no.
So how did you guys though first start making the webcomics? When did you decide?
Or even-
You know what? I'm just gonna put it out there. So how do you come up with the title? How do you come up with the story? The first page, even just like there are like a lot of horror stories. of people spending years on their first page just going, no, that's not right, that's not right, that's not right.
Yeah, that's the most painful thing, or like the scariest thing in being like planning on making a webcomic. It's basically the perpetual cycle of this is not right for the first page, over and over and over and over again.
You're stuck on planning.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be perfect. I think that's what's the thing here, which I should really start rebooting my webcomic. But yeah, it shouldn't be perfect. It just has to show the mood of your story.
Which, like, bringing back what you learned from OCTs is like, see, it's all coming together. We have to learn to just put things out, even if it's not perfect, right?
Yeah. Well said.
You know, because, like, I know for a fact that Rad, you two have a few things you want to change about your first pages of Handrava.
What? Whoa! Oh, really? Really?
Yeah, I mean, I saw the video, Rad.
Oh, that! Oh, that! Oh, shit! Well, it's actually weird. Okay. Well, actually, no.
You gotta give them context when you edit this, though, so they understand.
No, it's okay. I can explain it now.
Okay.
My webcomics protagonist really, how do you say that? Got buff. Their character design changed a lot. Changes throughout the comic in terms of like size. Like they're very different when you compare the last page and the first pages.
Yeah. And
it's true that that's an inconsistency. Like that's weird when you think about it. I feel good looking at it in terms of progress. I don't think it should change. That's just me personally but for this very specific thing. But honestly, I personally feel that is
more buff.
What the people want.
Give me
she got big.
Beef.
That's what happened.
It's fine though. It's great. It's a beauty to behold. I think we would all like benefit if we had more buff ladies in our media. But that's not our discussion for today.
But more seriously, I personally am a bit saddened when I see those people who want to start webcomics who are too critical of their first pages and always want to redo them. Like, on another hand, I'm not like that, so it's hard to me to imagine how much it's haunting them. And maybe it really could be helpful, but I feel like it's really holding them back for the most part.
I think the problem here is that the artist is not. It's not that the first page isn't good enough. It's that they need to get over the fact it won't be good enough.
You need to be chill. You need to chillax.
Yeah, you need to. They need. When you start, to chill out. And it's like, you know what? Just f*** it. You know, that's like, basically.
No matter what you would do, you're gonna hate it in 2 years.
Yeah, no matter what you do, the further you are in the comic, you will realize how much you hate the first page.
I don't hate mine. It's not a.
It's like I don't hate them because they tell what I want to tell, even if the art gets old.
For me personally, looking back on my early pages, it really, it gives you like this sort of pride how far you've come. It's like basically like a marker, a window of the past, and how far you've come.
When you look at your old stuff and you cringe, you just go, Jesus Christ, I want to burn it with a flamethrower. That's always a good sign. It's always a good sign. When
it means you've improved a lot. Yeah. So just do it, you guys.
Get those gains. Get fit, guys. That's the dream. You can do
Have the courage to let go of the first page and just keep running forward.
Get a second page.
Get to the second page.
Get to the second page, and then just let that go and just keep going.
It's a very inspiring thought, though. But then again, it's also kind of scary, just going, oh, I gotta make the next page. Oh no, I gotta make the next page, and then it just starts building up.
That's why there's a thing called backlogging.
Oh yeah, that's actually a question that comes often from people who want to start a webcomic. Like, how many pages should I post?
I mean, don't know what I did. I just posted the first page as soon as it was done, and I was really stupid because I had 2 webcomics at the same time, and I was uploading like 4 pages every 2 weeks for both of the comics, and it went well for the first 2 months, and then I just suddenly exploded and went, you know what? I can't do this shit anymore.
That's called burnout.
It's called the burnout.
Yeah.
I started with 10 pages. I published the prologue in one go. And then I started working 1 page a week.
So what's your posting schedule for every page?
I post at Thursdays.
Oh, okay. 1 page per Thursday.
Yeah, 1 page a week. If I have a lot of pages on the buffer, I do twice a week, but that's mostly it. So I started with 10 pages. I posted the prologue in one set, and then 1 page a week. But I didn't have a buffer, and back then it took me a lot longer to make the pages. I was constantly stressed until I eventually figured out how to make the pages faster. And I finally decided I need to have a buffer because I never know what's going to happen tomorrow. So,
you know, like for one thing, like the coronavirus might break out and then suddenly everyone's in shambles. That's always a good thing to have like a backup plan.
Yeah, guys, have a backup because corona.
If I get the virus and die tomorrow, you will have comic for a while.
I mean, if you die tomorrow, you won't really. I mean,
it's a 2-week incubation period, so you have like a lot more backlog to do.
It's got a scheduler.
Damn!
You got a tiny robot just going.
That's how much of a Chad she is. Like, even post-mortem, she will keep flexing on us. Hiatus, she will keep posting pages.
Just give it up like Tumblr's old function.
Nobody knows that she's gonna die. It's just like, it's just, oh no, she went on a hiatus. I wonder what happened to her.
Oh no, what happened? And secretly, it was my funeral.
But I actually have more questions.
Like?
Go on.
I'm very curious about the process, like the genesis of the idea. Not even starting your first pages, but starting considering doing it. And like, I'm curious, Shiz, as someone who, how was it starting the first webcomic? Which you haven't dropped the link yet, by the way. And starting the second one, what was that like?
Like the process of how I got the ideas?
Yeah.
How you made up your mind, like, I'm gonna do this.
I'm gonna do this.
Oh, okay. So, basically, I had watched the Star Wars Clone Wars show. And I was like, those soldiers who have like full body armor and are constantly with their helmets on, and you can hardly distinguish them. That's really nice.
Oh.
And I had a bunch of characters from previous stories that I wasn't using for anything. And I had a few ideas of how to use them. Then basically I thought about, you know how they say you should write about the things you like?
Yeah.
And I was like, what do I like? I like electrical infrastructures, I like computers, and I like Romans. So I'm gonna write about that. That's going to be my setting. Yeah. I was like, this is going to be the world I'm going to set these characters I already had. I'm going to have to make them fit into this world. And basically, I had read some nice books before, some sci-fi books, and I was like, yeah, I wanna try something along these lines. So I started from there.
Do you think if there was a similar comic or similar piece of media to it, would you have still continued? Like if someone said, like, maybe not future tech Romans, maybe if someone said future tech barbarians, was it because you made it because it was something you wanted to see that you saw no one else doing?
Not exactly. It was something I wanted to tell. So, I mean, if someone else was doing it, I would be like, great, because I want to read it. But I would still do my thing. Especially because I'm telling it from a very... it's in the future, but it's in Portugal. It's in Portuguese territory. I don't know if you read the comic or not, but there are a lot of maps. Especially, and it's precisely because of this, because those maps are real maps of real places in Portugal and Spain. And I think the localization of the thing, because I wanted to tell a story that was in Portugal, and that was a sci-fi here and not in space, and also to incorporate different cultural things, which I try to incorporate in a very sloppy way in the comic. So,
you guys hate Italians? Is that the thing? Is that the commentary?
No, I mean they are Italians, but they are not standing for current Italians. They are there for a different purpose, which is like a social class, which I also wanted to go and touch a little. It's like, yeah, I want to see these class differences between people, and they are future Romans, so obviously they have a deference for Italians. They're like, yeah, Italians, you look like Romans, I guess.
I guess.
Well, you're
very
the best.
interesting.
Like, you have the Roman infrastructure. Good. I mean, we all have. It's like, it's all over Europe, so.
What about the two of you?
Hey, wait, I have a serious question. Is this a 50 Shades of Grey kind of situation? Like the modified fanfic?
What?
Like you started with a Clone Wars fanfic and
No.
and then you had to change the characters.
No, I'm not big into fanfic. So I just looked at the aesthetics of war, and I was like, yeah,
Yeah, war.
war, yeah,
Let's put a bunch of pretty boys into war. I don't see why not.
yeah.
That's a great way
Oh,
to
really?
go about it.
I'm a simple person.
So it's like Italia? Or no, just kidding. I'm sorry.
Don't speak of that name here. What about the two of you?
How we created our own comics,
Like how you
basically.
even
Like,
began conceptualizing it, just so
So-
give our 4 listeners like an idea of how to start.
Well, me, like we said, the OCT was really good prep. After my last OCT, I don't even know which one it was.
I think it
When
was
did I
second
start?
draft.
Was it?
I think it's second draft, yeah.
It was like the third
It's
one.
been
Right?
Wiz.
At that point, I think I was considering it, but I was not 100% ready yet. Like I was scared. And like we said, did we say that? I was planning to say it. Anyway, one of the big things that pushed me was seeing other webcomic artists who I coincidentally, like, this is not paid promotion, who I coincidentally discovered through OCTs.
Such as
Okay. Such as, well,
name.
first I discovered Zombie Dogs. That was the handle back then on Walk-in City.
Oh, from Backlash.
And yeah, Backlash. Basically, it was through following the webcomic Backlash by White Ghost that I got really inspired, watching it update every week, watching the author commentary, watching it grow little by little.
yeah.
It really made me think, maybe I could do this. Like it looks like a fun adventure.
So after that, you got like inspiration to start up a webcomic, but why the webcomic you've made? Like, how did you arrive to Andrava?
Oh yeah, actually the origin of the story itself is it's a very simple tale. I was just thinking of a concept,
Mm-hmm.
comic contest
A comic con.
in Madagascar, just a 3-page thing,
Mm-hmm.
Ooh,
and I just doodled some stuff on the bus, and
You
on the
submitted it.
bus.
like I said, for a 3-page little thing about a Malagasy superhero, and then I just started from the decision of I'm gonna do a webcomic. I started studying that concept.
So what came first? You saying you wanted to do a webcomic, or the idea of a Malagasy superhero?
It was really wanting to do a webcomic first. Like at that point, I was trying to think of what kind of stories I could do,
I
and
guess-
then that little contest happened. And
So I guess it's not like how
Hmm.
Shiza came to it, where she was like, I want to tell a story. You, on the other hand, you were just like, I want a webcomic. I want to torture myself.
no, I mean, I have a lot of stories I want to tell.
Hmm.
I like storytelling.
It's hard
So,
to do, though.
and
It is hard to do.
this story happened to be the one I could
Okay.
get invested in at the time.
At the time.
It was not like the one story I had to tell. It was just one story I thought had potential at the time. And now I really love it. I'm very invested in it.
Oh,
You sunk your teeth into it.
But the appeal for me was really this anyone can do it thing.
You're inspired by
Like-
Ratatouille, I see. I too was inspired by Chef Gusteau's words. Anyone can cook.
hmm
An inspiration to us all.
it is.
Yeah.
So that fat man just touched my heart with his ghost hands.
Now you made it weird.
You know, it was always weird. You know, I didn't make anything
Yeah.
weird.
You're always weird.
That's fine. So, anything else you wanted to say, Rad?
Oh, yeah. No, but basically, I guess I can say it now because I didn't get my turn earlier. When you guys got very technical about the definition of a webcomic,
Yeah.
for me, the defining element is that anyone can do it. That's what makes the potential for really fresh and unique stories you wouldn't find elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And also, it's unhampered by commercial or Like, I have a senior here in my school, and they have a professional deal with Webtoon Indonesia.
Oh.
Whoa.
They told me that they can't really tell the story they want to tell
Oh, because of editors?
because the editors, because you need market appeal, you need to.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me at that point, it's not really a webcomic anymore. At least my personal definition of it. It's like it doesn't have that liberty anymore, that undampened passion.
If it's been touched by capitalist hand, it's no longer a webcomic, is what you're saying.
It's. I think it's saying that it's no longer having a heart. It's no longer a webcomic.
No. I know she still enjoys making it, and she can still communicate a part of her vision from what she told me. But there's something else also now.
It's just not the same, man.
It's just not the same. You're not pouring the entire when you're being in it, I guess, because someone tampered with it a little bit to make it more appealing. It's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Then again, that's an important part of monetizing your artistic work and trying to find an audience and things like real physical comics.
Yeah.
Most comics have editors anyway, so
I'm not against editors, at least in principle, mostly because they're there to help you.
Yeah.
I mean, you may think you are a great writer, and maybe you are not.
Yeah.
But I understand, because if it starts to compromise on what you actually wanted to tell because it wasn't commercially available, attractive, then it's like, if you're not telling your thing, why are you telling it?
What's the point?
But still, it's like you can have an editor and still tell the story you want to tell, but better.
yeah, definitely.
It's a capitalist.
Like Hiveworks, Tapas,
There's satisfaction on the financial side, but there's not much satisfaction in the soul.
So I guess that makes things a bit complicated for you then, Rad, because your definition was if there was like an editor, it gets a bit dodgy.
No, I'm not against the editing. Is very important. Like it's very important, but
you gotta have the soul into it.
I just think I have a very romantic vision of webcomics.
Yeah, it's a romantic version. That's adorable.
You know, we're not philosophers. We're not here to argue. We can leave that for the old angry white men to argue about definitions.
So just one last thing to illustrate how much I'm enamored with the concept of anyone can make a webcomic.
Anyone can cook.
At one point, very, very regularly, I would type, because I would be looking for other African webcomic artists, and I would type Kenya webcomic, Ethiopia webcomic, Nigeria webcomic, Ghana webcomic. I would regularly type that on Google, because anyone could do it any day, and I would be like, maybe
anyone in the world can do it. Anyone around the world.
Yeah.
You know, if there is like anybody out there from a small, tiny island from a country with no name yet, if you release your webcomic, you're gonna be the first one to do it, and you know what? That's a lot of audience potential. I'm just saying.
Oh wow, that sounds so good. I hope they do someday.
Yeah.
So did you find like any webcomics from Kenya though?
There are other African comics you can read on the web.
Okay.
But
such as?
Oh, you can find them if you type African webcomics, something like that. I don't remember, but they're not my style, but they exist.
I see.
What about you, Dom? Because I know Earth and Dust was a very personal thing for you, because for Walking City, the characters you entered for it were the characters that were eventually going to be the main characters of your webcomic. So like,
exactly, yeah.
Where did the idea start from? Was it like an elementary school thing, a high school thing, a college thing?
It's actually a college thing, and before it was called Earth and Dust, it was called Project New Earth.
I remember that.
New Earth.
Earth and Dust is better.
Wow, you remember it. Oh, that's defines how old our friendship is,
the
Brad.
homoerotic
Good
vibes emanating from the two of you.
That was like,
making me
it was like a decade ago, Rad. Good God.
Oh, yeah.
That was like almost a decade ago. That's how old we know each other.
That's the magic of friendship.
Yeah. But yeah, I was actually, no joke, I was actually inspired by anime and manga for the most part.
Are you saying it like it's a surprise? We know you're a weeb, Dom.
Yeah, I mean,
It's alright.
most of my characters got inspired by Kingdom
Say it
Hearts.
like it's a bad thing.
Some weaves live long, happy lives.
Some of them. The others live behind bars.
Like they should.
Okay, sorry, go on.
I was actually inspired when there was this film called District 9, or I think it was called.
Oh, yeah.
Was in
from the
Africa.
aliens who were refugees that arrived from another country. They took refuge from Africa and then they became ostracized and stuff. That's how I got inspired in creating Earth and Dust, because the main characters there are originally an alien race who were seeking refuge from Earth, and that's how they were treated as like lower class citizens.
So those are your plans for it, for the characters?
That was my plans for it before.
You did the prologue.
I let out a prologue. There was like a mix of fantasy and sci-fi in it, because it takes place in the future where humanity is barely discovering interstellar travel. And instead of them discovering the alien race discovered them, because the entire planet basically a warp drive right in front of Earth. So yeah, that was the situation there, like very different alien cultures and a very human culture just clashing together.
One another.
And yeah, it's a conflict that I really want to explore more. And
oh man, that sounds really cool. I want to read that.
yeah, no, it's already copyrighted. No.
Oh, Shiza, we're not gonna read it. We're gonna watch it once Dom finally gets the green light and then gets his own animated show on Netflix.
Woo! It's funny because originally I wasn't actually thinking of making Earth and Dust into a webcomic.
You said you were gonna animate it. You wanted to animate it.
Yeah, I really wanted it. It's actually my dream as a childhood to create my own cartoons.
Don't you mean your own anime?
My own anime or cartoon.
You can say anime, it's fine.
Okay, yeah, this is a safe zone.
You're Filipino, Dom. You're practically in Japan.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, people glorify anime here. Let's be honest. But yeah,
it's great. Anime is great.
So yeah, that's how I really wanted it to be as a dream when I was a child, and then I realized it's a lot of work.
Not even a lot of work. First of all, it's like, oh, we gotta make a team, and then I gotta spend $900,000 per episode.
Exactly. I didn't realize it when I was like in early. I'm gonna start making a manga first and first almost, and then from there it's like I keep letting it up because I was busy in college, and then I just realized, oh, an OCT, I can test out my characters how they act there, and then I was like, it's probably unlikely I'll get into this OCT.
And then
I just set out an audition, and then I lasted for 3 rounds.
You got in, and then made some friends, and then we're like, oh,
yeah.
I guess I.
We made some friends, like friggin' Lun here is actually how I met him in the OCT.
I was a small child back then. I still am, but now I have facial hair.
Congratulations.
That's the only difference. He only got facial hair. The rest of his body didn't change at all. But
it's kind of very true. So it's kind of sad, actually.
Well, yeah, after my loss in round 3, it was like, you know what? I should stop putting this on the side so many times. I should start working on it. And so I started working on the prologue. But unfortunately, life
happens.
Changes, Life happens. And it's honestly, this is a personal thing right now, but yeah, there was it was a very low point in my life after the end of the OCT, so while I was making that webcomic.
No time. You have to get your priorities straight.
Yeah, I have to get my priorities straight. So that's when I resolved myself to look for a job that I really want. And that's how I landed my animation job.
Yeah. A curious thing, though, because you had a prologue.
I had a prologue.
You had the prologue. You had it drawn out. So, were there any more? Was there any more content? Like, because I assume.
Speaking of,
because I assume for Rad and for Shiza, first you write like a script or an outline, right?
Yeah, I actually thumbnailed 22 pages of Chapter 1 of Earth and Dust and never actually came to light.
No, so yeah, that shows you had a backlog of some sort at least.
I have a backlog of 22 pages that I never inked. I only inked a few pages, and that's about it.
So remember, kids, that's what you should do when you want to start up your webcomic.
I have 22 pages of backlog right here. I have 3 or 4 or 5 chapters of script in my Google Drive, which I never worked on. And now I'm planning on rebooting the entire series again.
When you finally get to it.
Yeah, when I finally get to it. So right now I'm kind of busy with my professional life with work.
Well, I know nobody asked, but I'm gonna share my experience.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna drag you into experience because I was gonna ask about your experience.
It's very nice. I think it's very nice that the 4 of us have very different experiences with how and why we're starting our webcomics. Because on the other hand, I started two webcomics, and I was writing neither of them. I had a co-writer for both of them. I was co-writing one of them with a good friend, editor? And another one with my girlfriend. So there were two webcomics at the same time. It's like, oh, I want to kill myself. But
No.
so you could say that neither of them are entirely my stories, and I didn't actually want to tell either story. What I wanted to do was get experience to do my own story. The webcomic I'm doing right now is Orange Juice. It's about a superhero mafia, so it's structured in a way that there's a lot of action scenes. It's also structured in a way that there's a lot of asshole characters, and it's in full color. So I was...
And they're mafia, so yeah.
Yeah, so I was thinking of future concepts that I wanted to do that had the similar vibe, and I was talking to a very good friend of mine to write up something script. You know, we were tossing ideas to one another, so I wasn't super invested in the characters. I think it's a bit a very corporate-ish way of going about things. Maybe that's why it didn't take off, you know? Maybe it didn't have the soul.
I can feel Rado disagreeing right now. It's
He's
like,
going,
whose soul?
He's going, no, Lon, you don't have a webcomic. You never started a webcomic.
Yeah. You had two editors, Lon. You had two editors.
No, my romantic vision has a lot of... I have a lot of love to give.
I do like working on it, though. But the thing is, it's...
Oh, no, it looks great.
Yeah, it's not...
Yeah, I really like it.
It's not my story. Well, it's partially mine, but it's not entirely mine.
I see.
Someone else's
Orange
words.
just reminds me of Artemis Fowl, but with superheroes.
So, you know, it's I'm using it as like a means to an end, so like a practice webcomic. So, yeah, we all have very different views of what a webcomic is.
No, means to an end, that sounded very cold. Yeah, so it's not real. No, never mind.
It's not real.
Your webcomic isn't real,
My
Lon.
webcomic
That's what
is-
Brad is saying.
We're making fun of your definition, but, you know, we're not... We're just breaking your... We're not making fun of you. We're just
Okay,
breaking
but
your
speaking of your stories, then you made a very cool illustration for a new story idea. You said you have.
Knights of the Wandering Castle.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Expected in
Twitter.
2025. So, I have been developing a lot of characters recently, but they're mostly for, like, tabletop D&D campaigns, and it's like, the way I'm formulating stories right now is, I think of the characters first and go, oh, I have a bunch of knight and medieval characters, how about I put them together? That's how I'm formulating my next stories. So I have one where it's like, there's a guy who sells shoes and a guy who sells ramen, and they go across apocalyptic, angelic, and demonic hellscape, just selling food. You know, just have weird ideas.
I like it though. I really like that.
It's great.
I will read it.
Decker.
When it comes out, if it comes out.
So it's a webcomic idea.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
or that,
Looking
or
forward.
I was actually thinking of making like a physical comic just to sell it like independent.
But it's not a
comic.
webcomic.
Yeah, it's not a webcomic then.
Why
Never
not?
mind. You keep disappointing.
Sure, I'll upload it first on the internet for free, and then sell it to a bunch of people who don't know that it's a webcomic for free. Shh.
That's what I do.
It's absolute chat over here.
Oh, yeah.
Making internet money and IRL money.
You think I make money, huh?
Well, you
Internet
said you have
money
a
is
job.
Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, because comics make so much money, you know.
That's why we all started. We're
Yeah,
here for the
we're
money.
all in the comic thing for the money.
No, I just really wanted an anime. No, just
That's fair.
Right.
But that's actually a good transition to our next prompt,
yeah, we're very
which
organized.
is how the situation is today. Your webcomic situation, your feelings situation
like our situation.
regarding your webcomic situation compared to when you started. And yeah, I figured this time we could start with Shiz, our chat.
Oh. Nowadays, I know how much time and effort I need to make each page. And I've also gotten so much better at doing the
Making
pages that I can work pretty fast. and not miss updates, which is great because missing updates really made me nervous back then. So now it's a lot more chill, and I can focus also on other things like getting the comic printed and trying to make campaigns and stuff like that. And also the part of building an audience, because they say that you just put the work out there and the audience will appear, but that's not true. You gotta look for it, and I'm not into... It's like I got into a webcomic collective last year, which was great, because it brought a lot of new eyes to the comic. But I'm not in tapas, I'm not in webtoon or any of that. And it really makes getting new readers really slow. So I've been building a readership slowly over the years, which is great because the ones I get are really engaged, at least on Twitter, social media, not exactly on the comment box of the comic. So the ones I have, I know they like it. But it's really hard to get new readers, and sometimes that is really sad. But most of the times, making comics is a very happy process for me, and I really enjoy making it. And I'm not making any right now because I'm taking a break, and I'm already like, oh, more comics, because what's the point in drawing if I'm not making comics?
See, that's the passion. That's what we want to see.
But you said you had printed versions of your book. Have any of like the IRL audience like transferred over into reading your webcomic regularly? Because if you sell a book and they're like, oh, I like this book enough that I'm gonna give you money for it, do they go online for the updates?
Some people have. I've attended like one convention that is for comics. And even though people were more for the Franco-Belgian kind of comics, they were like, oh, this is different, huh?
This is dope.
And some of them were interested enough to send me emails like a few days after telling me they had read the comic in the website because it was further ahead than what I had to sell at the time. And that they enjoyed it. And I was like, thank you.
Very good.
That's
awesome.
great.
Yeah.
God, I wish that were us.
One day, Dom,
Be inspired.
we gotta make the product first. Does the comic have an ending?
I have most of the things planned out. I know more or less where it's going. I have not written everything. I write one chapter at a time. But I know the major events that's gonna happen, and I know more or less how I want to end. Obviously, as I write, I get to know more about the characters, and some things change, but I know more or less where I'm heading, so I hope I can pull it out.
We know you can.
If you can't do it, none of us can.
Hey, wait. We can all get through this together. What
We're
about you,
on
Rad?
this together.
Rad, answer your own question. You're a big boy.
Oh man, we shouldn't have started with Shiz because she had the best answer and it's tough to follow. I'm gonna follow with a depressing one.
If you're like, you gotta make your depressing answer really insightful.
I have depressing answers too.
Sure.
Okay, next time. Keep them for next time. We can take turns being depressing.
Yay, it's your turn to be sad.
Let's not have a pity party now, boys and girls. Come on, just say your answer.
Alright.
Okay, let me try to start this on a positive note then. I have started drawing the first panels of my third chapter this week.
Yay!
And they're looking
Right.
they're looking pretty meh. Like my thumbnails are looking better than the actual page.
I don't believe.
It's true. Like I'm at a point where I'm like I want it finished, not necessarily the best looking, but I want to at least continue the story. Well, the funny thing about my webcomic right now is that last update was I don't even remember.
It was in January.
Before that, there was like an 8-month break.
Yeah, it's
And the reason I concluded the chapter was because my brother kept asking me, "Where's the next episode? Like, where's the next episode?" And I was like, "Oh, fine, I'll just do
motivation
it."
you need then.
we have him to thank for reviewing the true nature of the story to us.
That was really funny for me because he was at that point he was really more invested in the story than I was. I was really like, whatever.
That's the goal.
That means you're doing something good.
Doing something right.
Yeah.
Oh, good job being positive, guys.
What? Good job being positive.
Rad, just remember, the only thing you have to beat here is your meat and not yourself.
Are we allowed to say that on the podcast right now? Are we allowed to say that on the podcast?
Well, I just said it, so if you want to take it out, he can take it out. He's editing this.
Just gonna, but basically, my motivation compared to when I started is much lower now.
You're
My
burning
investment.
out.
I still love the characters.
Mhm.
Like I still make little stories in my head and imagine scenes, but that's just for me right now. It's
Mhm.
just me experiencing my story on my own. But the motivation to actually draw it is not there,
You know, the
not as
burnout
much
is hitting you.
as it was before.
Why would you say that? Thing? What changed?
Well, when you start, you're definitely, I would say, personally, that's when you're most motivated throughout the whole journey.
Process.
The starting point is where you have the most motivation.
I disagree.
There's this thing called the 3-week syndrome, where after 3 weeks you're either still in it or just go.
Look, guys, I'm only now starting
Enjoy.
to get into the part of the comic that I
You
was.
wanna tell?
Yeah,
Oh.
basically, like I like the things I have told so far, but like the core of the story, the parts that I was thinking about 5 years ago, I'm starting them now,
No.
so I'm more excited.
Pretty boys
now.
kissing.
We're going into the good.
Yeah.
Hey, helmets off.
Helmets off.
Nope.
I got that. So, for you, Rad, I know you also had to move countries, and you also went through an entire process. You know, life just got busy for you. Dude, you're making
I was
it
very
'cause you're
busy being
very-
depressed. Yeah.
Happens to a lot of us, you know, burnout just happens. And it's something that you have to, like, come to terms with when you're running a long-term project, especially like a webcomic, which, you know, for a lot of people is also like a thankless job because you might not even get an audience.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
true.
know.
I did get lucky.
So, yeah. That's the thing you...
I know. I still want to continue it, and I'm gonna continue until there's no more motivation left. There's still a bunch right now.
Grim
I know
way
that's
to
a
look
weird
at
thing
it.
to say, but that's also so like, to be honest, that's something I've been thinking for a while now.
Mhm.
Like this thing could end at any moment. It's
And you'd
something
be
I,
happy.
I'm telling myself. Like maybe one day I'll just get bored, and like that's fine.
That's how most webcomics
I'm a-
end. They just go on hiatus and never come back.
Yeah. I'm not planning to end it anytime soon,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to spare my feelings.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm thinking it could happen. And also, I haven't even planned the end of the story yet, so... you know.
Sometimes a good motivator is money.
Oh, that's another topic. but
Money in the webcomics
that's not working out for us.
go hand in hand.
It's called
We all rich
Patreon.
in the webcomics, yeah.
It's called a Patreon.
Ooh,
Get rich on Patreon, right?
Hey,
No,
they're
that-
banning
that did
anime
not
right
work
now.
out.
So, is that all
Important
you have to
subject,
say
but
for
next
like where Andrava is right now, Rad? You're trying to revive it right now.
yeah, I'm just...
Yeah,
He's just
Said-
tired.
I
Yeah.
probably have a script.
yeah.
I don't have a script. I don't script anything. I just have very vague ideas.
Oh dear.
And I just start drawing. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's always been my process, so... For
Valid,
anything to
but
happen,
at
I
the
just...
same time,
It's kind of sad, but you know what? That's what happens. Is that all?
Yeah, I just... For anything to happen, I need to sit down and start drawing. That's...
I
And-
guess that is like one way to combat it, because you can think of it as work. We like to romanticize artists just working on what they like, but like it or not, most artists are workers. They're forced to do their
Work someone
craft,
else's story.
even if they don't like it, even if they're not fully into it. The important thing is they're getting something done, right? I guess that is like one way you could go about thinking of fighting burnout. You know, you don't always have to work at 100% of your full strength like every single anime character out there, but it's you know,
sometimes it's like...
you gotta slog through.
Yeah, basically. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. On the other hand, though, I'm also on hiatus in my webcomics since I've been on hiatus since May of 2019, but it's not because I gave up on it or anything. We talked about OCTs earlier. I'm currely in an OCT right now, so
Oh, he's in. Oh, he's so in. I
and
love
I'm
it.
so
Ooh.
into it. You know, I've been doing a comic as well, just not my webcomic. You know, it's fine because, you know, I got like just a few readers, so I'm not really disappointing anyone. So when I come back, it's like, whoa, he came back, dude! I can't believe it. Oh, who are you again? Like, that's right. You don't know who I am, so I don't gotta disappoint anyone. So, but doing something other than the webcomics actually been a nice experience, doing the OCT. This time I got a deadline. I've been managing to do things I don't believe I could have done just because of a deadline. I managed, I'm gonna flex a bit here. I'm just gonna go flex my tiny little muscles. If you asked me like a year ago, if you asked me to do 150 pages in 1 month, I don't think I would have been able to do it, but here we are.
No one should be able to do it, Lun.
Yeah, but I did it. So the thing is, like, just doing something aside from the webcomic, taking a break, and doing something else did help me out. I'm not planning on leaving Orange Juice behind. I plan on coming back to it once I've been eliminated in the OCT. This time with a lot more experience. I actually do have the next sets ready for upload. I'm just, unlike you guys, I was very young when I started Orange Juice. I didn't have a backlog or anything. The moment I was done with a set, I would upload it immediately. So now, now that I've learned how to work better, and now that I make pages faster, I plan on coming back into my webcomic, maybe hopefully in September, but this time with updates that are fairly regular. I still don't expect it to be fully regular though, because life can get hectic, but coming back to it. So that's me and my end.
Fair enough.
Okay, exciting stuff.
Yeah. What about you, Dom?
Yep. So yeah, Earth and Dust has been out for like almost 5 years.
Yeah, the prologue's been out.
I'll be honest, most of the prologues that I did is basically emotionally driven, because it was one of my lowest points in my life, and I was basically doing this out of sometimes spite, which is probably a bad thing, but still a good motivator, I guess.
If it gets you moving, it gets you moving.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I found my job as well, from spite. But yeah, the current state of my comics, I would say I'm probably planning a reboot. Maybe...
It's the horror story we were talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't spend too long on it.
I left it hanging for too long. I think I might alienate the entire group for, having such a despairingly different art style now.
It's the prologue. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I'm actually as the story changed, is this prologue not usable
The
anymore?
story has changed, and I think my writing has improved to an extent because I've been running.
Oh, yeah.
You're doing different things.
Yeah, I've been doing different things like tabletop and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it helps me explore more
character
interactions. Yeah, and it made me realize, man, I'm really a shitty writer. so after reading some tips and all that stuff, yeah, it's just like I realized, you know what? I have to start this from scratch. The 5-page script, the 5-chapter script that I prepared and everything.
It's because
it's not good.
If it was possible to just keep the prologue from 5 years ago,
I don't think so. Especially now that
it would have been very romantic, is what I'm saying. I'm just saying. It would have been romantic.
And funny thing is, I actually am thinking of a new kind of webcomic soon. And this one, it's not Earth and Dust. It's basically taking place in the Philippines, and it's a modern fantasy thing going on right now.
Salt and Dagger?
Yep, that's the one.
Okay.
Which I think no one knows because it's not out yet.
Yeah,
and I'm just writing the scripts.
Does anyone want to say anything else?
Wash your hands.
Wash your hands.
Or else.
Wash your hands.
I actually have something important to say. I want to tell our listeners about
what?
Raid Shadow Legends.
Oh,
no,
stop it.
Stop it. We're gonna get banned from this podcast first. So yeah, this is actually sponsored by NordVPN. No, just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry.
Skillshare.
No, stop it.
Maybe even Audible. Audible works because we're in the field of listening to people talk.
DiGiorno's actually reached out on us on our very
DiGiorno's is great right now because
just kidding.
We're ruining our podcast. First we gotta release the thing first. So everyone, if that's everything, this has been the first episode of our, as of right now, unnamed podcast about webcomics.
Java name podcast team.
No!
Yeah.
We can name it that.
Who are you guys again? No, just...
So once again, this has been Lun, and also Shiza. Please say hi and bye.
Hi and bye.
Rad.
Hello.
And below, Dom. God damn it. So, we're just gonna assume that Dom's internet is shitting himself.
Bye!
Okay, there we
Bye,
go.
Dom.
Bye, Dom.
I actually just left you hanging there.
Yeah,
for a sec.
I know. So,
Cue the music.
once again, this has been our unnamed podcast, and we are now signing off. Goodbye.